Hi, it's Jack Joseph Puig. I got asked to come and present here at La Fabrique, mix with the masters. And we've had a fantastic, fabulous week. And actually, we're still working together. And there's a few questions here I've been asked to look at. First one I see here is by Kirill, if I said that correctly. Aside from your wall of analog gear, which plugins do you find yourself using the most in the box? My favorites in the box definitely are the channel strip. I'm talking about the Matrix Hello one, and I really like the NV2 by Waves, and I'm a huge fan of a new one called Vitamin by Waves. I strongly recommend that you check it out. It's really fantastic. I love the SSL plugins. I think they're really great. There are quite a few I like. Those are the ones that come to mind really quick. H-Delay is fantastic. I think all the sound tool stuff is great. But I would say those first ones are real go-tos for me. In particular, like when I'm working on drums, I really like the channel strip. Has a great gate function, great compression function. It's very great in terms of the gate. Really grabs the front of the note in a real great way. You can really shape the sound really well. The compression is very punchy. You can really change the length of the note by how long you have the sustain on it, the release. It's really good. Vitamin is a whole new type of plugin that's really great in terms of harmonic distortion. You should definitely check out. Although those are immediately what come to my mind as favorites. We have now one here from, looks like Jamel. Hey JJP, you once said in an interview that getting the best mix required a combination of intellect and instinct. Can you expand on that a bit more? Instinct is about making those observations that are on the subconscious level almost, not necessarily the obvious. I have spent the last 4 years working very hard on listening to my instinct. And what I mean by that is literally every day, whatever that little voice inside tells me to do, I do it. If it means I walk down a sidewalk and I see a penny and it says pick up the penny, I pick up the penny. If the little voice inside me says, you know, you really should move that coffee because it's kind of on the edge of the table and there's a good chance that it's probably going to maybe fall off. You might brush it and it'll fall on top of the computer. Instead of doing the normal thing that a lot of us do, which is like, oh no, that's not going to happen. I'm going to be real careful. Then of course you bump it and then you go, you know, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. I listened to my instinct. Why I listen to my instinct and how that relates to this conversation is that there's two parts of us to answer this particular question. There's the instinct and there's the intellect, right? The instinct is what gives you that feeling of like, oh, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, just like I explained about the penny and the coffee, right? Maybe I should add highs, add lows, maybe I should compress this, maybe I should uncompress this, maybe I should move this by a millisecond, maybe I shouldn't use this part, maybe I should do this, maybe I should talk to the producer, maybe I should talk to the arranger, maybe I should do that. Whatever the question is, that's that instinct. The intellect is the one that goes, no, I know better. This is how it should be done. It should be done like this way, that way, do this, do that. This is how the engineer does it. He does it like this. He turns this button. I read this here. I did this. I did that. That's intellect. The intellect comes to the rescue of the instinct when the instinct makes a decision. It recognizes, it sees what I call Sherlocking. It Sherlocks the situation. It recognizes what it is. It identifies what it is. And then it's like, how do I do what I want to do? And the intellect comes in and says, this is how you do it. These are the steps you need to take on a technical level to achieve what you're thinking instinctively. So the real object of all of this, to make it very simple, is you should be managing your instinct and your intellect. Make sure they get along. Make sure they talk to each other. Make sure the intellect doesn't think it's better than the instinct because it's brains. And make sure the instinct doesn't like go away and die because the smart one, which is the intellect, doesn't listen to the instinct. So it's really balancing those two. You need to manage instinct and intellect. And that's when it's really, really powerful. That's what I meant by that question. Looks like Koskin, if I'm saying that right. Hi JJP. How do you approach your mix bus compression and EQ? What is first and what is last? And when you decide to add them in, while mixing or after finishing the mix? What's your start and end of mixing flow? Thank you for your time. I put the choice of what I'm going to do as far as the bus compression fairly soon. But the first thing I normally do is I kind of get a balance. I get an understanding of what the song's about. I go through my discovery process of what's the melody, what's the counter melody, where the parts are really cool, what parts need help. Is the drums feeling great? Is the bass feeling great? Can I hear the full tones of the bass? Can I hear the notes the bass is playing? How does it relate to drums? How does it relate to melody? What's great about the vocal? What kind of effects do I think the vocal's about? What is the vocal talking about? Are they talking about something sad, happy? I kind of go through that sort of discovery process, sort of what I call joining the band, and then admiring all the people in the band and seeing what they're really great at, and maybe even listening through their playing to understand what their influences are, and therefore that's probably what they should feel like, and that's probably what they were attempting to do, and I want to make sure I'm not in the way of that, and that I'm actually taking the magnifying glass and opening it up and really blowing up what they were trying to do. Once I kind of get that, which basically can happen roughly in 20 to maybe 45 minutes tops, I immediately then start to put a stereo bus compressor. And that can be a lot of different things. I think the SSL one is really excellent and commonly used. I really like some of the multi-band compressors because I like the fact that they grab certain frequencies and squish them around, because I always like my mix to kind of dance and have a feel. So when I look at compression, I look at compression as something that's making something dance and something really feel great. I don't look at it as level. I never think of compression as level. I think of compression as the most musical thing that moves and feels, that moves and changes sound and waveforms in such a way where I can make something move, dance, feel late, feel early, bounce around. So I get that pretty soon because I'm starting to make decisions about the way what I'm doing feels. And if that's part of the formula to the feel, then I better get in there fairly quick. The question about the EQ, I always, 99, I'd say I always probably 90% of the time put the EQ afterwards. If you put the EQ before, which could be a decision that you could make, you're pushing that into the compressor, and that's going to make the compressor react. And of course, let's, for an example, say I was adding, to make my point, 12 dB at 60 hertz. Well, you can imagine what that compressor is going to do each time the bass and the bass drum or anything that has a lot of low frequency content hits that compressor. It's going to be very exaggerated because it has all that low end that I'm pushing into the compressor. If I'm adding some top end to open up the mix to make something beautiful, I'll probably lose some of that because the compressor will compress that. It'll bandwidth limit the frequency. So most likely that needs to go after the compressor for the most part, so I can keep the way the compressor is sound shaping, right? Sound shaping the sound. And now I can further sound shape it by saying, well, gee, maybe I'm losing this frequency, a little bit of that frequency based on the multiband compressor. So I need to add a little bit of this frequency or that frequency that's not compressed. That becomes an additive agent. So that would be why I would put the equalizer after the compressor for the most part. But I want to make it very clear that people always understand that we can only talk in generalities. There's no real hard rules. There are some technical hard rules in terms of phase of microphones and things like that. But I mean, when it comes to art and this being a subjective and objective thing and us approaching it as we should, we're always thinking like a musician, joining the band, as I've said before, and becoming a part of it. You really got to use your ears and figure out, like, yeah, that works, that doesn't work. But 90% of the time, it's going to be after. Question from Michael here. I would like to know what was the pivotal move, accomplishment, in parentheses, in your career that has set the tone for your career. Without a doubt, without going through a bunch of names, I could come up with at least 10 to 12 of my favorite pivotal moments, and that's when the artist comes in and I play them the mix and they cry, laugh. I evoke an insane emotion in them because they never heard their song that way, except that's how they heard it in their head. And when they say to me, that's exactly what I felt, how did you know I was thinking that? That's exactly what I wrote it about, and now I feel it coming out the speakers. I've really accomplished something, because what that means is I'm hitting more than one of the 5 senses. They're now visualizing it. They're now feeling it, right? They already heard it. They can almost taste it. And maybe in some cases, It's so vivid, they can see it. And if I can hit all 5 senses, and I can get that songwriter, that artist, that band, that singer to say, that's exactly what I thought. I can't believe you just did that. Bingo. Oh, the drums sound great. Can't believe the way the bass drum's slamming. I love that delay on the voice. What a beautiful piano sound. Great guitar sound. That's nice. But when they say to me, that is exactly what I was thinking and feeling, that is the X factor. That is the magic. Making that come out of paper speakers with magnets, magic. A question here from Marcia Miranda. Hey Jack, a simple one. What is your favorite stereo bus chain? Don't have one. I'm one of these guys that I like tailoring the sound. There's no question that there's certain things that work really well. You know, the chances of an SSL compressor working on the stereo bus are about, probably 9 out of 10. You probably have success with, the popular multi-band compressors. They probably all work for the most part. But again, it's how I have to listen to it. If it's maybe something that's just a voice and a piano, I might want something a little bit more simpler as a compressor. Maybe I'm just looking for a little bit of level, a little bit of gluing. If I'm working on a record that I need it to really dance or move or feel great, it's probably going to be multi-band compression that, as I said, moves and is kind of alive in the way it sucks and wheezes and moves. Like a Fairchild would do that. You hit it and you can see the meter move and you can feel the record moving. It's dancing as it's compressing and going up and down. That's why I would pick one. I would pick one based on the music. If I had something that was maybe, real transistor-y sounding, maybe it wasn't recorded real well, I might go to something like a Fairchild, a Puig child, because it's a warmer device. If I needed something in the EDM world or rock world that was slamming, I might go for something more like an SSL that's more aggressive. I wish I had, here's the exact chain, but there isn't one. And I promise you that even in the analog domain, I have tried every possible combination you can think of. Everything. Neve, Joe Meek, SSL, RCA compressors. I've tried everything, and I can't find a formula. I find that I have to tailor it and find what really works great for that. Though but as I said earlier, there are the standbys that will work for you. An L1 will, an L2 will work for you. A Puig child or a Fairchild will work for you. An SSL will work for you. But you know what? Don't think like that. I challenge you to actually listen to it and go, what really does this need? How do I really make this thing dance, feel great, evoke the right emotion, evoke the right feeling? Don't be worried about competing with someone level-wise. And I know this has been said a million times, and I still know that even though everyone says it, they still worry about it. But if you could get rid of that, I've been trying to get rid of that, and I think I successfully, at different times in my career, have gotten rid of it. It's more like what makes the record feel cool, feel great. It's always about feel. When the musicians are playing in a room, when we're listening to music, when we're arranging, it's always about the feel. And without a doubt, you can choose a compressor that gives you a level, but you can choose a compressor that also gives you a feel. Earlier I was asked about some of my favorite plugins, and I just realized I left out audio tracks. Go to audio tracks, go to classic compressor setting, which is in the presets, take off the expansion fader, take that all the way down, and push that up, push that down, mess with the threshold, even at the actual preset it presets to 6 dB in gain, so sometimes you've got to pull that back a little bit, but that will move something like you won't believe. Or I should even also brought up the Trans-X. You want to talk about something where you're messing with the attack and the release? I mean, it's incredible. I mean, how would you not try that stuff? I mean, you've got to try things like that. Don't fall into that stupid, oh, everyone puts an L2. Now I got to make my mix loud. It's no. Guess what? If you make your thing feel amazing, you know what they're going to do? Guess what? They're going to turn it up. They're actually going to go to the volume and go like, whack that up. This has got crank factor. It's awesome. So what did the level mean at that point? 0. That's how to answer that question. Okay, we have a question here from Lacan. What is the JJP sound? What would you say is the common mixing or production theme that runs through your body of work? Are you a pure chameleon in your opinion? Or do you, like great studios of old, like to leave a characteristic vibe that is purely JJP, while still giving the artist what they want? In a perfect world, you would know I did it. I know all of us like to think that maybe we don't have a stamp or a sound, but I think we all do to a point, partly because maybe the kind of gear we're working on, or that we have sort of a default. I talk a lot about, in the classes here, about getting out of your default and trying to push the button to manual. Like, get out of relaxing, get out of going to the same old thing every time. You know, it could be anything, it could be recording. Like, stop always using an SM57 on a guitar amp. Try another microphone. See what happens. Experiment. Create. Musicians do. Why wouldn't you do it? Why, if the musicians create, why would you not create? Why would you not try different things? They try different chords, they try different lyrics, different melodies, different arrangements. But you're going to do the same thing over and over? Retarded. Makes no sense at all. What you should do is experiment. So I experiment. So I'm hoping that what I'm getting is a tailored sound, a tailored mix, a tailored representation of the song, because we all know song is king. We know it's the most important thing. We know we got to get that right. We got to get the song right. We got to get the voice right. These are the most important things. We know that. So I hope when people hear songs, I would rather they go like, that's the most amazing song. I love it. Google it. See if we can find out. Good luck, by the way, if you can't find out who did it. But let's say you can find out who did it, right? And it's accurate. Good luck again. Be like, wow, Jack Joseph Puig did that? I never would have guessed that. That's a compliment. That makes me so happy. So that means you love the song. You love the artist. I did it right. Please remember one thing, that we are the vessel. Our job is to facilitate. We're not the artist in a sense. We're not the star. Of course, you know, we're artistic and we should be artistic. And I referred to that earlier. But what I mean by that, what I'm trying to say is that we are between the artist, the song, the melody, the feel, the attitude, and the listener. We're the one that connects all that. So our job is to connect that, to be a vessel, to be a facilitator, and to make sure that we allow that to come out. As we take the picture, as we take the Polaroid shot, we take the picture of something, we got to make sure it's the right picture. So when people see it, it's framed right, it's beautiful, it's 3D, it's gorgeous, it gets the message across. That's our job, 100%, and nothing else. We have a question here from Kay. Hey Jack, is tuning the kick in hip-hop production necessary? 100% depends on the song. Of course, if there's no bass and there needs to be something moving on the bottom end, right, low frequency-wise, to support the chord structure of the song, to support the melody, then of course you tune the bass drum to follow the chords of that song so that the chords are powerful. As you know, the bottom end is what defines the chord. If we play a 1-3-5, where we put this left hand makes that chord sing different. How that chord sings is what gives the melody the power. When the melody has the power, it delivers the lyrics. That's how I've always seen it. I look at the piano when I'm mixing. I think about the voicing, which is the same thing as EQing, which is related to arranging, and I look at all of that. How am I voicing this? Or we could say, how am I equalizing this? It's the same thing, right? And how does that work into the arrangement? And does the bass drum need to be tuned and move so that the chords have the power and the melody has the power, and now I'm getting the message and the feeling of the lyrics of what the person is trying to convey. Next question is from James. What are some things you have seen recently that have made you excited about working with music? How would you like to see these develop? Without a doubt, I would say what I'm most excited about is the digital technology now being able to do some things that we've always wanted to do. Like multi-band harmonic distortion. The idea that soon we'll have gesturing in our mixing. The idea that we'll be able to take our hands and touch a screen and move things around the way we want them, whether it's deep or close or to the left or to the right or up center, you know, up or down. The idea that now we're not thinking two-dimensional. It's not just a pan pot that says left, center, and right, but it also is like dimension pot in a sense. All of that makes me very excited. The sound of plugins are getting much better. Obviously, the DAWs are improving as we go along. They're sounding better and better. For a while, we were working on digital equipment that was still evolving, being redesigned, rejiggered, refigured out. It wasn't nearly as good as analog. Let's be fair. Analog has had, 50, 60, 70 years to develop and turn into something great. And digital relatively is new for the most part, if you relate it to analog. So now that there's more years underneath the belt with digital, some of the designers, some of the creators, some of us that have used it have made mistakes with it. We've learned what works, what doesn't work. That's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the fact that I only see digital sounding better, better, and better, and having now that as another tool. Having just analog alone is kind of boring. I mean, I like analog, don't misunderstand me, but if I can have that, and now I have digital, I have a girl and a guy. I have a left and a right. I have a black and a white. I have a left and a center. I have different choices now. My palette has now become greater, and that's how I look at it. And I love the idea of having a greater palette to paint things even more vivid, more aggressive, more colorful. I hope I've answered all your questions today. I feel like I have. I feel like I really, really have been fairly detailed as I can in this short period of time. I would really suggest that you strongly consider, if you are considering to come here to mix with the masters, that you definitely really take it serious. We're in a weird situation, as we all know, that our business is changing right now. We're not in the same position that we've been in before, where you had the traditional T-boy, as they call it, or the second engineer or the assistant engineer that got to watch people and learn. We don't really have a lot of that anymore, as the commercial record studios are becoming less and less. At this point, they're going to grow again once we figure out how to make money from digital, which we are. And obviously, there's so many different streaming sites that are coming up, and things are changing, and people are figuring it out, and how to optimize the finances. But until then, this is a luxury that you should really, really take advantage of. And I'm going to restate what I just said, because it's actually not a luxury. It's almost like a must. I've watched it change people's lives. I've only done it 2 times. This is my 2nd time. But I've actually watched people change their lives. And I've had email exchanges or phone conversations with people that were here, and I watched what it accomplished and how much it changed their life. You should really consider it. Thank you very much for watching today. It was awesome here. Very, really good time. Thanks. Bye.